And what you can do is upload multiple invoices at once. So I'll just open this one at the moment. So this is a Sydney Water invoice. I'll just open it up first. So what Invoice Genius can do is actually read the text. So you can see that there's a water service. You can see that it's $9.84. You can see the amount. Actually, no, the Invoice Genius will read the text to generate a tenant invoice description. And in addition to that, it will read the barcode on this invoice, which is here. And it basically will get these digits, and from that it can work out the amount for the invoice. And it can also match the payment number to a tenancy within Property Tree. So I don't have it currently set up to match with a tenancy, but basically you upload the invoice, you can put a description in here. And right now it's actually reading the barcode using a NuGet package in .NET called Lite. And it just reads those digits on the barcode, finds the tenant, and will create an invoice for that tenancy in Property Tree. And if the tenant was set up to match with this particular payment number or account number, it would have gone to the bulk processing queue. And from here, you just click on upload or create, and it'll basically go ahead and create these invoices for these tenancies behind the scenes. And that's more or less how it works.
David, when you say it reads the text for the water rates invoice, and I'm just going from my understanding, and so that's why I want you to answer this. Is it really like that's for water invoices? For any other invoices that aren't water invoices, does it read any text, or does it just read barcodes?
Just the barcodes.
Just barcodes. Okay, yeah. So the only invoice that it reads any text and creates the tenancy transaction for is the water rates at this point?
Yeah, Sydney Water, Queensland Urban Utilities. There's a few different companies that it does it for.
Right. And to get those companies into this, like, have we got a list of them somewhere that it actually does that for?
Yeah, it's documented somewhere in Confluence. It's in the code as well.
Right.
It'd be in our knowledge base articles. I could pull it out from there as well if you like.
Right. Okay. So for a certain subset that we've predetermined for specific invoices, it'll read some invoice information so that we can figure out how much we want to charge the tenant. But for the rest is just reading barcode. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, you can stop sharing now because it looks weird. I look weird in your screen. Once it's done that, so you can do that in bulk as you have suggested. If you upload an invoice that doesn't have a barcode, does it do anything? Does it let you do that, or does it just let you manually put everything in?
You need to manually assign it to a particular tenancy.
Property, sorry, it's actually a property.
Property.
So when you're dragging and dropping and manually uploading non-barcoded invoices, you would see the invoice on the left, and then on the right-hand side, you'd be able to enter the creditor, the property, your description, chart of account code, amount. You could manually create a tenant invoice, but only if you needed to. But those things are mainly what customers would do.
Right. Okay. So we've got a predetermined number of specific invoices that we're dealing with water and a few text extraction type scenarios that we've manually programmed in. For the most part, we're just reading the barcodes and assigning it based on the numbers, which is what we do in Palace as well. And we're not doing the extraction process. David, just because I think this is an important aspect, can you show us the bit where you've got the split screen with the PDF and the information that you're matching to, just so we can give an idea of how easy the matching process is if there's no barcode? Do you have that, or can you get that up?
Yep, one sec.
Right.
So
okay. Yeah. So you can see the invoice, and then you search and select on the right hand side and it's pretty straightforward. Can you, for any invoice, let's say it's not water, can you also assign a certain portion to the tenant manually?
Yeah, so there's that. See, it says number 1 invoice there, number 1 tenant's
Right.
invoice. You can flick that on and you can manually type in. This one has cleverly detected it.
Right. Yeah, because that's the water rates one. But if it wasn't water rates, you can just do that manually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
this is the text I was talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. So and so how do you get that text? Do you just, is this a PDF that actually has some metadata within it, or are you somehow extracting it using an OCR type situation?
It's not OCR. It basically reads the text within the PDF.
Right. Okay. So it's got metadata within the PDF showing.
That's right. Yeah.
So if they scan this,
it doesn't
work. It won't work.
Correct.
Okay. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
That's one of the downsides to it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
It's got to be a native PDF. So
Right.
native PDF means you can basically highlight the text. If it was scanned, you couldn't use your cursor to highlight that text and do copy paste, for example.
Right.
So our customers normally would download these from their Sydney Water portal, I guess they call them, for the Sydney Water guys. And that's the way they get them as the native. Anyone who posts where they still post them in, which I think was the good old Meriton back in the day when I was working there.
Yeah.
And they were very unhappy.
I still have them posted in, mate, just so you know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because those people are still working there, mate, and they don't like change. So.
It's the same for Auckland Water Care as well. They don't even give that metadata in their PDF, so we couldn't even do that.
There's a couple of other things that it does. Do you mind if I just jump in?
No. That's why you're here.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm like, why am I here today? I'll just share my screen. So as was mentioned by David, it does do that automatically, reading the barcode, pulls the property information based on that barcode info and pulls the amount, pre-populates the creditor, the property, and the description and amount and chart of account code. As you said, this is the one that you can manually enter. So you can type in your creditor and your property. There's a couple of other things that it can do here. We can send them to a draft folder and we can actually forward them to another user. So some people will actually scan them in bulk and then forward them off to someone else to process, or maybe the PM will need to make some notes and things, which I see. I know IA Invoice Automate does all this clever stuff, but I just thought I'd raise it. There's an activity log here where you can see the tracking of the document moving around. When they get forwarded to someone, they appear over here in the inbox. So that's the items coming in. They can then process them just like they would anything else. And then there's that standard draft. When you put things in draft, they just go into a draft folder. And finally, duplicates. It identifies duplicates within the batch, and it identifies duplicates within the data with transactions that have already occurred or invoices outstanding waiting to be paid, that type of stuff. I'm not sure if IA does that stuff, but that duplicates is quite powerful. So when you drag and drop them in, they fall into this bucket for you to process separately. That was very quick.
Yeah, no, look, that was good. And Palace has a version of this as well that's very similar. It's not uploaded, it's done through emails, but what you've described there is very similar. You can forward them to someone else, it detects duplicates. The only thing it doesn't do is pull any actual water rates information. You have to have like our version of Invoice Automate, which is called Extractor, which we're going to be replacing with Invoice Automate. So this will actually help, I think, for both systems. Because they're very similar in that the free version is kind of the barcode scanning one. Yes, Invoice Automate has a few extra things, and yes, this functionality is important, but it's really just sort of barcode scanning with a few extras. And then you've got manual assignment, which you can do, and that's both in Palace and in Property Tree. So look, I'm going to pause there for you, Raf and Chintaka. I know I haven't met everybody else on this call. If you want to introduce, I apologize. I didn't realize so many others were coming, but that's all good. So I'll leave it with you, Raf, if you want to maybe just do introductions and then we could have questions maybe.
Yeah, or I can dig in a bit because obviously it's probably been some time since Annie and I went through this because this was like a long time ago. So I can show you what we've sort of been up to, give you some of the logic points, and we can work out what's the base and what's the not base. But I suppose before I jump in and introduce everyone, just on the barcoding point, so the vast majority of bills these days don't have barcodes, so it's becoming less and less important. We can do barcodes, we just opted not to because we just thought it's not happening. So in Australia Post charges money for those statutory billers. They're removing them from the bills because no one's going to the post office anymore. Even the grannies are paying by the internet these days because it's inconvenient to stand in a line and pay cash. So those things are dying off. So as that progresses, Invoice Genius and the Palace solution become more and more redundant as they go through. So that being said, let's introduce everybody. I know Chintika, you know, well, I'm assuming you know. Why don't we just say hi? Just everybody say hi. We'll just do a quick round of introductions, starting with you, Chintika, and then we'll go from there. And then I'll do some demos.
Okay. So I think I met Duncan and I met Annie as well. So my name is Chintika and I'm the CTO of Bricks and Agent. So nice to meet you, David, and yeah, only David, right? Only David.
Sarah as well. Sorry,
Sarah,
I didn't. Sarah, I should have introduced her. Sarah's on our side. She's looking after our partners now. Very important.
Oh, that's good.
So
That's
she'll
good.
be keeping you guys in line going forward.
Nice. Okay. Nice meeting you, Sarah.
You too.
Over to you, Madhavi.
Hi everyone, I'm Madhavi, Head of Product Design and Bricks in Asia. It's nice to meeting you all.
Nice to meet you. John, you're next on the list, or whoever. I don't know. I'm just looking at the list on the screen.
Yeah, I'll jump in quickly. Hi, everyone. I think I've met almost all of you, except David. Nice to see you all. I'm just here because I wanted to actually see Invoice Genius. I hadn't actually been showing it and see what's there, because obviously if we are going to be pursuing this is stuff I need to discuss with all our staff. So it was just to see where this lands, but nice to see you again, Annie. It's been a while.
Nalika, you want to say a quick hello? From there.
Hi, sorry, my camera is not working. So I'm Nalika. So, I'm working with the web development team for Bricks and Agent.
Helena, did you want to say a quick hello?
Hi, I'm Tilna. I'm working with Bricks and Agent development team.
Oh, nice to meet you all.
Just an update, Duncan, and the technical team. So I remember in the last meeting I mentioned that there's a guy who has worked in Invoice Genius. Tilna is the person. He actually worked with Invoice Genius.
Ah, right.
Oh,
Excellent.
Oh, good. All right, I'll share my screen now and give you guys a bit of a run through. So you can sort of see what we've got. There's lots and lots of stuff coming. Every sprint, there's more bits and pieces. In the last one, we connected the water meters with Inspection Manager, so that was pretty cool. I'm just going to bring you guys up on this screen. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
Sweet. So this is sitting inside both Palace and PT in the accounting section already. What I like to normally do is just run through quickly to show you some of the settings we've got so you can understand the logic behind. And I suppose this is more important for you guys than most folks anyway. So what we've done is we've basically got these general settings. So like Duncan said, for Palace, you can email in. With us, you can email in. Invoice Genius, there's no facility to email. So people have to download and upload bills, which is quite a frustrating process for them. We got a lot of feedback that they love the fact it just hits their inbox, it forwards across. And just from the logic perspective, they just need to set up a forwarder on their side to our email address. They don't have to change anything. There's no DNS record changes, nothing. So it's pretty straightforward. We've got a couple on here, South Australia Water, Southeast Water. If you get an invoice from them, we'll automatically read it. We click the link and download. And when we first started this, we had a process that did exactly the same thing for Sydney Water. Sydney Water changed all of their logic and we tried for months to fix it, work around it. And we failed because they implemented some really hardcore firewalls. I don't understand. It's water bills, but apparently it means the world to these people at Sydney Water. So I got frustrated in dealing with them and I sent a letter to the minister, and the minister made them call me, and they've had to have a number of meetings with me. So they're working out a process where we'll get our automation back for Sydney Water, because that will allow those bills to process automatically. So the idea is you send an email in, we'll do all the processing. It just sits in this queue for you to look at. And that's what we sort of did. High level things. You can choose the number of pages to scan. We scan sequentially now. So when we find the information we need, we stop. Whereas before we didn't have that. So we just scanned whatever we got, but we also have a cutoff. So if we can't find information, someone sends AGM documents, fire safety, we'll stop after 4 pages. And then we'll say, do you want to actually process this? Yes or no? And they'll go ahead and do it. Benchmarking, really exciting. People love this. So they can see special levies, water increases, bills that have got anomalies. And that's prevented a lot of angst. So that will show up in both the standard and bulk view. We've got the ability to notify owners. So you can tick a box and it will say, hey, owner, we've received your bill. It doesn't send them a copy of the bill. We don't want them to pay it, because otherwise we have problems and they pay it and then the trust pays it and there's all sorts of drama. But just to notify, some owners just want to know. And we also have the ability to turn that on for vacant properties by default, so that the owner knows I might not have enough money. We've got our preset tenancy date. So this will automatically set the due date for the tenancy when it pushes back into PT. We developed this for Meriton. So we read all of their commercial water invoices and the hundreds and hundreds of pages of invoice of water meters. We read and process the tenancy invoices. So it doesn't take them very long to do. And if they listen to me about their scanner quality, it would have been a much better experience from day one. But that's a whole different story, which we'll leave for another time. You can leave notes for, so we have the whole centre property manager as well, which didn't exist before, and you can override that if they don't want to respond. And then you can change the approved date to the invoice due date, because some people want to set that date as that. We've got the inspection meter from inspection manager, sorry. So we create the tenancy invoices, both the tenants that have vacated as well as the tenants that are living there. We create both of those invoices. And then we can send accounting emails as well if people want to jot that down to their accounts email too. So we've got that functionality. And to that end, where David was talking about, you know, picking it up from the PDF, we actually have global descriptions, and we also have single creditor descriptions. So when we scan a bill for a specific creditor, you can customize that on a creditor by creditor or global basis. Everyone decides on what they want to do. It's up to them. That's their choice, of course. And then we've got a whole heap of reminders for creditors. So if the bills don't show up, then you can send them an automated system generated message. For example, you know, if it's a water bill globally and you're expecting it every quarter, if it doesn't show up, we can create these default reminders. So it will remind the property manager, the person entering and or property manager, but we can also remind the creditors as well. So we can say, you know, if we didn't get our strata or our water, or for an individual strata company that's terrible, that tries and robs us, we can send them a notice automatically out of the system. So this will then notify them, and we stamp this in the timeline so that they can see moving forward that there's no room for them to say, I didn't send you a bill, you didn't tell me. We have this all available. So it helps a lot in that regard as well. And you can set the number of days. So, you know, 7, 14, 1, whatever you want to do. You can manually do it, and you can exempt certain creditors from duplicates. So our duplicate logic, you know, you guys sort of touched on it. We have a really comprehensive duplicate logic that we built looking at different data points. One of the big problems Invoice Genius has is it only finds a duplicate if that bill is the same amount. So if you get the bill for 300 and then 2 weeks later you didn't pay it and it's 305, it doesn't recognise it as a duplicate. So you paid the bill twice. So a lot of people were very frustrated. So we've got a whole raft of logic. But, you know, one of those, for example, is we'll check a bill in a 5-week period. So, you know, it's giving you enough time. But some get weekly pool cleaning or weekly gardening. So it was flagging them as duplicates all the time. So they can exclude that as well. And then we've also got in our invoice section, they can check BPay validation. So we'll check the invoices as they come through and ensure that they're correct for BPay, so that you don't get any failed batches, basically. Any questions on the settings? And then otherwise I can just dive into that, to the guts of it, so to speak. A couple of head shakes, a couple of no cameras. So I'll assume silence means nothing. So cool. On the dashboard, so basically the way we've laid this out is just categorizing the different sections. So basically, if you've got an overdue bill, that's one that's past that reminder date. So it will sit there and it will tell you this bill's overdue. If invoices that have issues, so we match on PT using the BPay biller code and the BPay reference number. If they're already in PT, we'll match and then they'll go into the approved. If they're not, or it's an EFT bill, or in the case of Palace, we don't have a unique reference number. What we do is we put the bill in the issues section, they'll enter the property address, they'll enter the creditor, and once they save that, the next time they receive a bill for that property and that creditor, we'll match it in our database automatically for them. So that matching is done. And then, yeah, basically different sections, the duplicate logic. So we put the invoices side by side, and I can show you all these things, but you know, to give you a bit of an idea on Sydney Water, and disregard the junk because this is just test data. We've now got the functionality, and as I said, and it's probably been a while, you know, you can minimize this section so you can maximize the screen real estate. If you're blind, you can zoom in, or if you want to go back to the list, you can also do that as well. You can order it based on various different things, least amount, largest amount, oldest, newest, etc., which was a feedback from your former workplace. And then all the details come in here. So we show the lease start date. We show if the water usage is enabled. Obviously, this creditor code is garbage. The water usage, all the information is pre-filled based on the description library, the owner, the creditor, the payment information, and we pull all of this off the bill. And then from there, if the tenancy is enabled, we will automatically create all of the tenancy invoice. So they don't have to touch these bills. It's literally automated. So no creation of tenancy, no creation of creditor, there's no manual entry, and we read all the data off all of the bills, and we've got specific invoicing models that deal with water, because obviously there's a lot of complexity in the water model, and the way that these modelling is laid out. We estimate as well, so if the tenant has got a vacate date, that's during that billing cycle, we'll estimate that, and we'll put it here. But now with the inspection manager integration, we can show actuals. So no one has to go back. When were they there? What was the last bill? Because we already capture previous and current meter reading, and we can then compare. This was the last meter read. This is when they moved out. This is when they moved in, and we connect the dots. So that's literally in some cases 3 to 5 minutes per invoice that they're saving by utilising this. And so that really helps. You can approve it, which takes you back to the main screen, approve it next. And then we've got the send for property manager approval now, which we didn't have before. That will go off to the assigned property manager, and they'll get a daily email summary. We don't send them individually, because if they get 100 emails from our system, they have a meltdown. And the other really good thing we added a few months ago was report an issue. So when a client presses that, we get a screenshot of this section, we get a PDF of the bill, and we ask them to tell us what was wrong with it. So we can send that, the modelling team will get it and they'll go, oh yeah, this is wrong. And great example, we had a lot of bills that we had second, third, fourth installments, but we didn't have the original first bill. So the last month has been pretty busy doing all these new bills that have come in.
I was about to ask you, how are you managing the first, second and third installments for council?
Yeah, they came in a lot. I mean, the bill was still being read. It was the amount. So, you know, it would take the total amount rather than the quarterly amount. So all we need is a sample or two, and then we just point it to the right section, and it's happy days for everyone. But that means they don't have to contact support. They just push a button and keep on moving, which is, you know, quite helpful. The other thing that we implemented that's been a big hit is the bulk review section as well. So literally you can review and you can choose up to 100 records. And, you know, if you just tick that box and these are all okay and you hit approve, those 100 invoices are going back to the trust account. So literally you can be really quick. And, you know, we show you here, oh, this one's duplicated, or this one's estimated, or this has got water enabled, or there's no issue, or in our next release, we'll also show you the benchmarking in here, because people ask for that. So you can really go through these things quickly, and you can filter it by address or creditor. You might just want to deal with, I don't know, Sydney Water, for example. They're all within the same band, and you just scroll down going, yeah, that's all about right. Cool, approve, done. So the more people have trust in the platform, the more they utilise that functionality. So that's quite helpful. Another
what was that file only? Does that just push to our document management?
Yeah, so it sends it back to your document management.
Yeah, okay,
cool. So we file that in documents, but now we've got the option, well, from the next release, your API will allow us to categorise it. It was just going in the owner document, but it wasn't tagging it as like an invoice or whatever. We can do that now.
Yep.
Correct. We'll be able to tag that accordingly. So that will file away in PT and also in us as well.
Nice.
Our duplicates, and you'll have to excuse the data that's in here, who knows what it is. But basically what we do is we say this bill is a duplicate, and then we tell you there's 6 duplicates that we think is similar. And then what you do is if you want to compare them, you basically will come in here, compare them. We'll put both bills up here on the screen, and then so my PC's got about 10,000 things open on it. So yeah, we'll basically compare the bills for you side by side, and then you can scroll down and you can see and highlight the pink parts that we believe are duplicated. So you can easily tell, yeah, this is a duplicate or this is not a duplicate. If it is a duplicate, you can just get rid of it and just push delete. But the other good part of that is that if you push the delete on anything, whether it's this or whether it's something else, what ends up happening is it will end up in the trash. So just to show you guys where it is. So here in the platform, here are all the bills you deleted in the last 90 days, and you can choose to restore any of them up to 90 days. So, yeah, generally speaking, 90 days is enough for you to work out you've made a mistake. And then, yeah, you can just pop that back and restore them back to the main queue. We also have the ability for you guys or for people to view the whole organisation or just themselves. There's someone's name that's familiar on this call. Okay.
Wow. Good
You're
on
in
you.
there. You're double, mate. You're double.
There's
up.
2 of them. Yeah.
I know.
You
It's
didn't
good.
have the
That came
duplicate
back.
detector on the
Get back,
users.
mate. No duplicate detector, mate. There could be a twin. You never know. It's the same name. So you can look at who uploaded it, but you can also look at who it's assigned to as well. And then with regards to the uploading invoices, this is where you basically just come in and drag and drop. PT, I'm not sure about Palace, but PT is limited to 99. So big drama for people. They hate putting these files in 99, 99, 99 because they can't remember what 99 they did, etc. So with us, you can upload thousands, tens of thousands. It doesn't make any difference. And it will just create a batch and it will sit there and it will show you the time remaining at the top of it as well.
Yeah, Palace doesn't even allow uploads. You just have to do everything through the email.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you get your full notifications here as well. So you can click into certain things and say, you know, what happened with this one, and it will take you to that specific property if you wish. And then there's the full search as well. So you can see, I don't know if this one's got any invoices, but I remember this property address. Yeah, this one's got a few. So you can drill down into a property. You can see which ones have issues, duplicated, etc. Which ones are completed. And if you wanted to drill into one of them, for example, this bill, here and view the history. Don't know if this test data's got it, but yeah, what will happen here is you've got all of the timeline, who created it, who did what, which is another thing that BT doesn't have. So nobody knows who did what, and this way here, well, this is who did it and this is when they did it. So you've got that full history. The other thing that we did as well is we're starting to add a lot of smarts and data to the platform. So we've got a full insights package with Power BI. So you can basically drill down into data and we can report to you things, for example, how many invoices you processed, what's still in your queue, how long did such invoices take, and more importantly, which properties didn't you receive any invoices for in the last quarter. So if you've got an active property, there's no real reason why you haven't received a water invoice if you're the one that's supposed to be paying it. So maybe the tenant hasn't redirected or the owner hasn't redirected it. Maybe it's been lost in the mail, whatever the case is. So you can drill down into this and you can export these into Excel and CSV files, and you can see who's doing what and how many were duplicated and how many reminders went out and all the things that all of the property managements and trust accountant people said, we really want to know this information. You know, how much invoices and what invoices are we in, what's the value and how long is it taking for this person to do stuff? And then, you know, what haven't we received stuff for? So this is a problem. And then obviously you can drill down into that as well. So you can drill down into all of those facets and you can export them. And then we're overlaying that into the system. So we've been doing a lot of work with modeling and trying to work with our good friends at ChatGPT to see how we can make this even smarter. So we benchmark all of the invoicing, and we know when everyone pushes the approve button, and we know if they've done any effort or if they've taken any extra steps. And if that's perfect, after a while, our job is we should be able to just, these bills come in and they're just approved. We know that they're correct. We know, you know, the scanning is 96% accurate. So humans will have to touch maybe 5 to 10% of the bills rather than 100% of the bills, which is where it's at today. And, you know, we're working pretty hard on that stuff at the moment across not just this, but the whole platform as a whole. A lot of talking from me. Any questions from you guys?
Well, I think it's fairly obvious that this does a lot more, right? So I guess we need to make a decision based on these two comparisons. And I get that you don't read barcodes, and that's fine. If we were going to do exactly like for like, I guess you would need to, at the very least, know if a barcode was in there, right? And go, okay, well, we can give you this data, right? You know, stuff like the you know, definitely the BI reporting and stuff like that can all be not part of the Lite, right? I really don't. We really just want to be able to replicate what Invoice Genius does in a way that will then most likely lead to people upselling to the better version, right?
Yeah, correct.
Meaning that you know, probably it'd be nice to have some prompts saying this is not available. Maybe it's there, but it's not available in Invoice Automate Lite. You know, call us if you want to upgrade. So I guess the question is, how do we, first of all, at the minimum, we need the, you know, that screen that you had where you can see the invoice and you can select properties and creditors. But also, I guess, even if you're not reading the invoice, maybe we can provide a minimal amount of data in some way, because that's what the barcode would provide. And I don't know how that would look. That's my feeling on it. And I'm really open to suggestion from Annie and David as to if they see it in a similar way.
You guys are already reading the BPay ref, right? And the biller code to determine, and you get that from our API, right? That I built before I left.
Yep.
So that's the bare minimum that replaces the barcode in my eyes.
Yeah, you don't need the barcode anymore. I suppose the way I sort of saw it, Duncan, and this is probably more of a commercial discussion, but basically we would put this platform in a cut down version, so it is comparable to Invoice Genius. Probably a bit better, because we don't want to make it.
Well, yeah, well, that's going to be the trick, right?
Well, I think some things will naturally be better, like you're reassigning for approval. That process is better because ours is just sending it. So I think those things will naturally be better. So
I suppose the sort of discussions I've had with Josh aligned with this would be we'd have this as a cut down version, so it functions, it has minimum functionality. But then in platform, there would be things like, hey, do you want to get your water invoices automatically completed for you? Hey, do you want Power BI? Hey, whatever. So what I sort of pitched to Josh, and he was going to talk to others, was we would put the cut down version in. We would charge you guys whatever the wholesale price is, whatever we come up with to use the solution. If that customer upgraded, whatever you wanted to charge them after that point, it's up to you. So the onus becomes on MRI to be the upseller of this solution and to offer those incremental benefits, because we'll essentially be a wholesale provider in the background. But, you know, that we haven't finished that discussion.
Yeah, look, that's how I see it as well. I guess it's just maybe the question that I really have is, have you guys got enough out of this session to go away and go, yep, cool, I think we can make a cut down version. I understand what Invoice Genius does. And we'll come back to you when we're ready with that, because I think the financials, that'll be up to Josh, and I think he's fairly keen to have this going. One more question for David K. Is there anything we've kind of missed that maybe you know about that we may have missed that Invoice Genius does that we haven't talked about?
I think Annie showed all of the features that we have, really. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, and for your comfort, Duncan, I think we've probably got 180, 200 agencies live and about 400 that have activated but not live yet. And these are the big ones. So they're the ones processing the huge volume. So anything that they've come up with, we've already addressed, with the exception of we had requests, but this is not related to us, and it's something that doesn't exist in PT at the moment, but it was around creating a matrix in PT for owners as to what bills an agency pay and what bills they don't pay, so that if an invoice comes for strata and the owner pays their own strata, we just file that away. It doesn't actually touch our system, but that's we can't control that. What else was there?
No, well, that's fine. Look, I'm not interested in anything that PT doesn't already do.
Doesn't have.
I'm, I know that this solution, as long as you keep developing, it's going to be, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's really just about that replacement going, can we offer a replacement for Invoice Genius for free? Because not everyone's going to want to pay for something new, right? That's really what it comes down to in my mind. So if you can come back and go, like, we've got this, it does what Invoice Genius does. You charge us. Obviously, Josh has got to make the figures work. I'll leave that to him. But he's doing this company. I mean, I was on a call with Gavin Fuchs as well. Fuchs? From Strata, and he's looking for this cut down version as well. Like they want to do this as well, and then we can incorporate it into Palace and get rid of Extractor as well. So there's lots of areas, at least beyond my vertical, which actually will feed into it, and I'll leave that to Josh. So really, all I'm expecting from here is for you guys to go away, come back with a cut down. Yeah, we've got a cut down, and then hopefully, Josh can sort out all the financials, and we'll sort out the implementation.
Yeah, I mean, the implementation should be relatively simple. We're embedded already in both of them. So it's like, where do we need to put this stuff and how do we replace it?
It's just about the process from going, right, you're on your cut down, everyone's on this. Like we don't give them a choice. You've got this. It's free if you want to use it. And then I reckon a lot of people will upsell if they get a chance to see what it can do, at a full level. So I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Particularly as we bring that automation as well, Duncan. Once we've got that accuracy, you can say, this is how many Sydney Water invoices have gone through at 99% accuracy. Do you want this to be automated?
Yes.
Do you want to touch these or not? Do you want to pay not to have to touch them? I think that's pretty much a no-brainer.
It's a compelling argument. And there is a lot that we can still do. It's just we just need to get the balance right of not giving them too much that they go, no, this is great, I'm never upgrading, and not giving them too little and they say, well, this doesn't actually do anything. I'm worse off.
We just don't want people to go, I want to go back to Invoice Genius. That's what I want, right?
Correct.
So as long as we can provide them where they don't do that, then I'm happy. Anything else, anything extra is just sort of bonus for me.
Yeah, and just from the perspective, when I spoke to Josh, and just for the purpose of this call, from a licensing perspective, you guys would license the technology, but we would need to then have access to all of those people's data from the residential property API in order for this to actually work. So we need to work out how we did that in a way, because there's significant volumes of records that we would need to do in a period of time.
And look, we're actually currently working on a way to extend the quotas and stuff in our API. So we'll figure that out as part of the whole solution. That really should just be a case of us expanding those quotas so you can get that throughput.
No more 429s, mate.
One quick.
They weren't my idea, Raf.
One quick question. Is there anything, because we don't currently physically sit inside the trust, that goes into Invoice Genius that isn't exposed to us that you're aware of, Raf, that we would need to account for? Like for tenant held funds or owner, is there anything that doesn't come across into us currently that we'd need to be aware of, that would need to be exposed?
Well, I mean, we don't get the tenant held funds at the moment. I mean, look, if there's opportunity for us to see what's in the trust, that would be helpful, but there's no APIs for that at this point in time, from what I understand. But yeah, there's a small number of customers that utilize functionality where a tenant will pay all the water for a year because they have a gambling problem or they don't have much cash or whatever. So they'll give them all the money and they're holding those funds. At the moment, we have no way to connect those two dots. So that would most likely be something, but I'd suggest that's something relatively small.
I don't think in Invoice Genius, are you saying when they create the invoice, you want to allocate any held funds at that point?
Yeah, that's what they're saying they do in Invoice Genius. We don't have that functionality. We've only had it a couple of times, like a handful, but I think the further you step out of the city areas, there's lots of weird intricacies. That was one. The other one was that didn't work was some people charge a fee to do a water invoice.
Yep.
But they choose on or off depending on how they feel that day. So we don't have that functionality.
You don't have the fees, right?
No,
Okay.
we have no fees, no trust, and no held funds. So we've got no idea on those three variables. I don't know how prolific or widespread it is, but I think the further afield you go, the more you'll get those folks. So if there's opportunity and we're going to do it lock, stock and barrel, we might as well do it with everything, bell, whistle and priority creditor and all that. Although I don't think priority creditor means anything to our world, but I've heard that a number of times and I say that should all be in PT done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could expose that to you as well. We think you can probably pull that from the API right now. We could probably talk about that because when they pay, they sometimes it prioritizes which one to pay. So
yeah, I didn't know if that had any logic because we're not paying anything. We're just processing
but maybe they
so.
want to see it. I don't know why they want to see it.
I don't know.
Maybe they want to edit it.
Well, the weird and wonderful list is very, very small now. So, but as you expand and if you do this widely with Invoice Genius, I guarantee we're going to get more weird and wonderfuls that none of us have ever heard of.
Yeah, I think we could expose the tenant held funds and the fees in an API for you guys just to streamline that. I don't think that's major. Do you think, Duncan?
No, I don't think so. And look, I'll leave that with you, Annie. Maybe you can make a note and we can put that in. If you think that's going to be a blocker for people moving from Invoice Genius,
I think fees would be 100%. The 10 invoice credit, I thought it was hacky anyway. In IG, I've probably got to refresh my memory, but yeah, but I think the fees definitely because they want to be able to turn them on or off whether they charge that fee or not, depending on how they're feeling, as Raf said.
Yeah, it depends. It's so weird. It's like, yeah, we want to charge these fees, but not for everybody, but some people. But
yeah, because this owner was on the phone with me, arguing with me a day ago, and I don't want to make things worse, so I won't charge it.
I don't understand why you're charging $10 to do a water meter thing. It just doesn't even make sense. But anyhow, it's none of my business.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's an old thing.
Annie, maybe make a note of that, and let's see if it's easy enough to expose in an existing API that they're already using. Let's just do that.
Okay. Yeah, they were pretty much the only things I can think of. I'll check with the guys as well to see what else is on the hit list. But I think we've covered a large number of it. I don't know if there's any New Zealand specific things, Duncan, but I haven't heard any.
There probably are. Crocker's who you're dealing with now, I think, is the only one that I did custom work for. Right. And you're already doing a few things for them, and they're going to go to the full version anyway. They're not going to go to a cut down version. So I'm not too worried. Other than that, the extractor is not a good solution for them at the moment. So I don't think anyone's going to be sorry to see the end of that. Our one is slightly different in that it'll still go through once you process them in, it still goes through a dashboard in the Palace system. So there's still an opportunity even at that point to send it to so there'll be two opportunities to send it through to a property manager. So depending on, and that's because everything doesn't matter where it comes from, from our API gets filtered into one place. So we may have to review that again once people start using this, because from their point of view, it'll be a double up in functionality.
Yeah.
But I'll worry about Palace later.
It's fine.
The people there's not many people on Extractor, and they're moving to Invoice Automate anyway, the full version.
Yeah.
And the barcode stuff's humming along, and we'll look at that when we've got more time. So as long as you're happy to go from this point forward, to look at a cut down version, if you need to finalize the financials with Josh first, I understand, because you don't want to do all this work and then we're going, oh no, don't worry about it.
Been there, done that, mate.
So finalize whatever you need to finalize with Josh. Say, yes, you've had a meeting with us. We're all on board in terms of what we're trying to replace in regards to Invoice Genius. And we're ready to go as long as you guys sort out the, whatever the licensing agreement is.
Yeah, cool. And question for you, Annie. When I spoke to Josh some time ago, he said that only about 50% of PT customers are using Invoice Genius, and the other 50% are using manually uploading and manually typing stuff in.
Creditor invoice. Oh God.
Apparently, I don't know the stats, but that's what we spoke of many moons ago. I'm not sure if David has that information or if anyone else has the information, but
I don't know in the back end, David, you might be able to answer this, whether we know the difference or whether it's just a creditor invoice once.
We can tell the difference. I could have a
You
look.
can?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
awesome.
can get back to you if you want.
We'll
because
get David to run some
it'd be
stats.
great to get those people because they have nothing at all and they are manually doing stuff. And God knows why 50% have opted not to use a free product. It doesn't make any sense to me. You're not charging anything. So why would you sit there and manually create creditor invoices? I don't know. I'm just going on anecdotal stuff from Josh.
People don't like change, Ref.
Oh, really? I never
God,
would have
it's
known that,
great.
man.
It's horrible. That other screen's horrible.
Not in this space. Everybody loves
No,
change in this
But
space.
in rest, Annie, the screen looked like that, so they don't want to change.
No,
But in
that's
rest, It
right.
was better. I could press enter and it all came up from the last one. In Peter, you can't even do that.
This was a few years ago. I had a person who still manually wrote out all their receipts. And I said, why do you do that? And her answer to me was, it just works. I was like, you're manually writing out every receipt for every rent that you get. Like writing.
Was it a
them
small
out
rent roll?
in a
Otherwise,
receipt
you'd
book.
be going crazy if it was a big rent roll.
Well, it was pretty big. Like that was really like a full-time job. But like that's what I mean. People just don't like change, right? There's no reason for her to do that. And it was like, oh well, it's working, so I'm not going to change it.
Yep.
So when I was selling all the time, Duncan, I used to throw in that we do everything for the trades other than we work with an abacus. And that was my ongoing joke. And I used it, as everyone's going, yeah, that's funny. Until I said it to this strata office in Canberra. And this lady just stared at the screen. I was like, what did I say? And she's like, I have an owner of a certain denomination that has 5 properties. And we have to download their owner statement and rewrite it in a format that can be calculated on an abacus.
Oh wow!
And that was it.
Okay.
I couldn't use the joke anymore. Every time I said it, just straight to this conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Strata, is there anything that we need to know if we're looking at this as a cut down version for Strata, or will it be?
Look,
like
I think they just looking for a similar sort of thing where they could offer it as a free version. So I said, look, we'll use this as the base, and Gavin was happy for that. So just whatever we're doing for this, I don't want you to do anything extra for any other product. This is going to be our base. Like there's they're not trying to replace another product. They're trying to actually,
just have fun.
Introduce a product. So it's going to be different for them. So I think just. Yeah, let's not overthink it. Let's do the cut down version based on this, and we'll try to fit everyone into that box.
Has Strata got any APIs we can use? Because last I checked, they didn't have anything.
No. Well, no, they're still mostly a desktop based solution. So, and they're still trying to do a hybrid version at the moment. So I don't think don't be expecting any APIs from them. But feel free to reach out to Gavin and let him speak for himself, because this is just brief conversations with him.
Yeah, no stress, mate. All good. Perfect. Any questions from anybody else on the call before we wrap?
Yeah, just one question. This is actually about Invoice Genius. So you mentioned that you guys are actually using the barcode. So what's actually stored in the barcode, and what are you extracting from there?
There's 3 pieces of information that are stored in 128 barcodes.
Yep.
I've done this before. There's something that identifies a creditor, usually a number. There's something that identifies a property or an owner, something that can identify the property or account that it's linked to, and that's usually based on a property, and an amount figure. And the amount figure, like it's a problem for water rates or something where you don't want the final total amount, because there's some statements, and usually it's the total amount of the statement. Sometimes you want the total amount of the invoice, an invoice within the statement. So that's a problem, especially for the water rate side of things. So yeah, those generally, that's across barcodes. There's 3 pieces of information that's stored in pretty much all barcodes.
So Duncan, how do you map this? Like let's say.
Well, you map it manually, and at least in Palace, I assume it's the same in Invoice Genius. But you map it manually the first time, and then it remembers that number for that particular one, So for that particular invoice, I store a number for the property, a number for the creditor, and then the amount. Well, the amount's just an amount that changes, and you just pick up the amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this means, so this is, so let's say if there's a completely new agency, if they are just starting with Invoice Genius, so which means, so each and every invoice that's come to them for the first time, you have to do this.
You have to match it to their property. That's right. Yeah, because you're using a code that's internal to the company that sent you the invoice, right? So you got to match it the first time. David, is that pretty much the same as Invoice Genius?
Yeah, pretty much. You have to have that initial setup, basically.
Yeah.
We can, though, import those when they're migrating from REST. We do import them over. So the first time they bulk update, because we keep them in our, we don't call them regular payments. What do we call them in Property Tree? We call them creditor authorizations, I think they're called. And there's a list of creditors and biller codes, creditors and references. So they can actually get migrated from REST. I think they get migrated from the competitor PME and maybe some other products. But then once they're in there and you drag them into Invoice Genius, I think it's the same with Invoice Automate. It detects it the first time that they're already there.
Yeah, if they're there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got to jump, guys. I've got to do school pickup, but it was lovely to see everyone again.
Thanks, everybody.
Eddie.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
I'll
it.
see you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Anything else, guys?
From
I guess
my
we all
side,
said
that's all,
goodbye.
Duncan.
It looks like
Everyone's
everyone's
gone.
gone. Okay, I guess that's it. Anything for you, Chintaka, while we've got you?
No, I think that's because the initial question that I had about, what you guys are actually using the barcode for.
Yeah.
So I think earlier also we have been using this property. I think it's in the property creditor references where we have a number.
Right.
Right
Yeah.
under it's code in the property. So you have this creditor section where you can define a number. So I think that is the number which you guys are using.
Yeah, usually for the creditors, it's actually a lot of the times it'll be a four digit alpha, of some sort. Quite often it'll be not a number, but it's basically it's a specific type of barcode. I think they call it a 128 barcode because I think it has 128 characters.
Right.
And usually the amount is in cents. Right, the number of cents, so they can include cents. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. But if you're not reading them, obviously, I don't necessarily want you to do that as part of the cut down version. So just have a chat about how you're gonna do it. As long as we've got a code for the creditor, a code for the property, and an amount, then that's what you'll be replicating. Obviously. We're dragging a few more things out of the document for Watercare, as was mentioned, and a few others. So there's a bit of extra involved there. And David, it'd be good if we can get a list, actually, if you're okay with that, of the ones that we're doing more than just the barcodes.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
Cool.
I can get that for you now.
Awesome. Cool.
Yep.
That everything?
All right.
Cool. We'll call it then.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
See you
Cheers.
later.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.